You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back with a special edition episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Well, I did not think I was going to be doing a special edition, but you all asked for it. It makes sense. And who would have thought we would be doing this like back to back? I mean, last week it was Jasmine Crockett and all of that was going on in Texas, but Philly, we have a problem. I mean, it depends on who you talk to, but I, for the first time in a long time, made a surprise appearance at Philadelphia City Hall, specifically City Council. I hadn't been there in a little bit. As you all know, that every Thursday, City Council has their sessions. And, ever since I have not done my show there, I haven't gone on Thursdays. Now, there has been some press conferences and things because I do have access, which I have, utilized when need be. But to be in City Council after a while was interesting. Now, I went because Mayor Cherelle Parker gave her third budget address. And there's so much to unpack there. I've already shared some things on social, and a lot of you all have been talking about some of the things, and we're going to unpack some of the things of this budget. I just want to say that is 5 hours I will not get back. Look, what I have in my hands, which you all cannot see, is 42 pages. 42 pages of Mayor Cherelle Parker's budget address. It was a 2-hour-long speech, 2 hours and about 7 minutes and some change. But this was a very long speech, and, I'm not, on the comms team. There's some things I would have edited. I don't know where the editors are, but it's a lot. It was a lot. It was some redundancy. Definitely a shout out. Lots of shout outs. Even people who weren't even in the room were getting shout out. But it was a very, very, very long speech. Detailed. I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it's a combination of navel gazing and forecasting, and there is the meat. I mean, the big one was like the fact that like the taxes, right? That everyone's talking about. We're going to talk about what those taxes mean. She doesn't get to the taxes until like page 31. Page 31. The major takeaway from all this are the taxes. But before I get into all that, I want to talk about the whole setup and everything. So I arrived at about 9 a.m. Everyone had to come. All media was told to come at 9 a.m. to ensure that we got seating, to be prepared, all that jazz. We did not leave until a little after 2 p.m. So from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., we were in City Hall chambers. It was long. 5 hours. 5 hours. And the speech was about 2 hours. There was a slight delay. And so I think the mayor began speaking, towards the latter end of 11 a.m., like towards closer to noonish, give or take. And then she stood up and she spoke for 2 hours, just nonstop. And in the beginning, there's that energy boost. And then I want to say after 45 minutes, it just felt like auto-tune. Like there was just parts where I was just like, it was high energy in the beginning, and then it just kind of felt like you're losing me. And I'm someone who can sit for a long period of time without an intermission, like a bathroom break or anything like that. So, and I don't really use public restrooms personally. So I didn't have to go to the restroom, unfortunately. But man, I was like thinking to myself, how did I do this every Thursday at City? I guess I was committed. The grass ain't always growing on the side. Sometimes we be missing something. I'm like, I don't miss that. I don't know. It's been a minute, but woo, it was long. the whole thing was long because they had a part of it. They had city council session at the beginning, and I was just like, they had public comment, and it was just like, okay, it just dragged, and there was just a lot was going on, but the crowd, who was there? Not that many members from Harrisburg, interesting enough. Like, no heavy hitters. Like, I mean, there were legendary folks like Senator Vincent Hughes and State Senator Vincent Hughes, of course, State Senator Sharif Street, who is a congressional candidate. So he was there. State Senator Anthony Hardy Williams, State Senator Nikhil Saval, State Representative Morgan Cephas, who's also running for Congress. So it made sense for her to be there. Chris Rabb was not there. It was not that many state reps. I think, yeah, it just was not that many from Harrisburg. I mean, it was not. That was it. Morgan Cephas was the only state rep that was there. Interesting. Like they really hounded, from sources told me that they were really trying to hound and get the park administration trying to get as many bodies in there, but people were just not feeling it. And there was prior reporting about the taxes yesterday, which was on Wednesday, around Wednesday evening. There was a 4 p.m. briefing. I don't think I was invited, but that's okay. It's all right. But they had, I think, a 4 p.m. briefing with some members of the press to discuss this plan, and then it, of course, went out to the public. But I think that some people I spoke to on background, some state representatives that I spoke to on background had told me that they just wasn't enthusiastic about going. The situation with this, it's a lot, and yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And we got some major problems with this budget. But there were people that just said they didn't feel comfortable going because they didn't know what it was going to look like with their constituents. Plus, they were like, look, we really don't have, I mean, there is a relationship between, the state and the local and all that, but like city council has to vote on this budget. They need to be present for that. They just didn't really feel beat to go out and champion it. Like the first year, sure. Second year, okay. But this, they were like, because they're going to get a bunch of phone calls from their constituents who are Philadelphians that are going to ask questions about these decisions and are going to actually want Harrisburg in some type of way to address it or take a stance on it. And I am actually curious about what Governor Josh Shapiro is going to do, because that would be interesting. Of course, there are members of city council there. There were former elected officials that were there. A lot of city municipal folks, row office folks, they were all present. The big three were present. And this is going to be their last major public-facing moment. Now, I broke the news on Tuesday that Deputy Mayor Sinceri Harris announced her resignation. I found out before it went public. I broke the story. We do exclusives over here. And then, 2 hours and some change later, other publications will follow up because, that's what they do. It was a frenzy on Tuesday, what I've heard from the park administration. And I will get more into that on my episode that is dropping on Monday. I have a lot to say. I'm not going to take up this space to say it, but if you want to know more, you do. Also, I will not be talking about it on the record because I'm going to be at South by Southwest this weekend. So there will be no On the Record with Ernest Owens on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, Progressive Black Talk Media, WRD Radio. I will not be on air on Sunday because I'm going to be in Austin, Texas, talking about podcasting and talking about my own podcast at South by Southwest. So I will be in Austin. I'm leaving Friday, be there for 3 days. and all that jazz. So I will not be doing it. So the only way you will know about what happened with the big three and some things, I'm going to be able to share a little bit more. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to be able to share a little bit more because now, for those who've been following this saga, what did I tell y'all? Y'all didn't see it coming. If you've listened, if you're a loyal listener of Ernestly Speaking, you already knew it was only a matter of time. Remember, I told you to watch the movie The Favorite. Didn't I tell you the dynamics at play? Okay. So I will be sharing that. I will also be sharing some insight on what that future looks like for that member of the big three, because I have some deep sourcing, some deep information that I've been told that I can confirm is true. And so you will be able to hear that information on midnight on Monday. That's the goal. The goal is to get the episode out like first thing, like I always do at midnight. So stay tuned. We're going to be doing Oscar watch as well. So I'm going to be back in Philly in time for the Oscars, the Oscar watch party, which I love. But there's a lot. So we're not going to talk about the big three, but I just want to say they were there, seated next to each other. Okay, I'm not going to say how they replaced me because if I say how they were, who sat next to who, that would be I would be sharing too much that I want to talk about later. So I won't disclose that because I was like, that can get a little messy. I'm not going to get into that. But they were all three sitting next to each other. They were present. The mayor acknowledged all three of them, made it a point to really shout out Sincere at the beginning. And, you know, she shot everybody else up. So it was a out, not up. Freudian slip. But yes, so this budget. So I got a chance to look at the budget address. We were given hand copies, digital copies, all of that. I mean, look, it's an ambitious plan. And the goal here is that the mayor wants to really improve services. There's a lot of conversations about public education, which I liked, public transportation, while Harrisburg is not really stepping up in this fiscal upcoming budget. Doesn't seem like it's a priority Shapiro about what to do with SEPTA right now. It looks like the city is still committed to doing some things. So let me be very clear. I will acknowledge the things that I saw that were fruitful. For those who say, all you do is tear people down. Listen, nah, I'm just honest. And we need adversarial journalism more than ever. And I talked about that on social. Now you all was feeling what I was saying about that. We need people to investigate. Where are the investigative journalists? Where are the journalists that are coming in with critical thinking skills and intellectual thinking skills? We need more of that. So if you're taking this personal, please don't. Take it professional. Take it, procedural. Take it, policy wise. Like, I don't know what people, I don't know. But I just want to get that clear. This isn't a bashing, dragging, tearing people down. Like, get out your feelings and get into the fiscal. So we're going to talk about this fiscally, right? So there are great services, right? The mayor is very passionate about really improving the quality of the city. And I will say that unlike previous administrations, specifically Kenny and others, I didn't feel like they had a more rounded view on how to enhance aspects of the city. I will say that what allures and can be distracting for constituents and taxpayers about the Park administration is that they know how to sell an idea. Like, you can get into the spirit of like, okay, greener, cleaner, safer, wonderful. Like that will get you. So there was a lot of great things being talked about. And you're like, okay, public education, we need to fill that gap, right? Because there is that, $6 million deficit everybody's talking about, or $6 billion deficit, billion. It's a lot of money. And then you got all of these different, other things, right? You want to, got the 250, you got public transportation, which is a big damn deal. There's housing, right? There's all these other conversations. And you can say, yeah, we I like those things, right? But here's the problem. You're listening, and she talks for about over an hour, and she's painting this picture. She's telling these stories. And I'm like, yes. And I'm listening. But by now, you know where my head is. Who gonna pay for all that? How much that's gonna cost? Make it make sense. And so you're just listening and listening to all this stuff. I mean, she goes down, and I mean, the centers, the help with recovery, which is cool. There's home. There's the One Philly mortgage. One Philly this. One Philly that. A gateway to economic. I say economic, but economic is what she says. Mobility, right? You have access to workforce development. You have modular housing. You have some workaround housing. She wants to expand the EDEY to 47 schools, which is about education. She wants to, do some work with the City College for Municipal Employment, CCME. She wants to talk about, student loan help centers. That's going to be $850,000. She wants to talk about small and local businesses. She wants to do some programs for ensuring diversity in contracts. Shout out to Nadar Jones, who's over there as Director of Business Impact. She's got a lot of things she wants to do. I mean, she was big. She loves talking about that Atlanta battery. I was saying to myself, if there was like a chance that if there was a joke or a game where you said take a shot every time the mayor shouts out the battery, she's obsessed with that damn battery in Atlanta. Okay? The Hanawha Philly shipyard, she wants to talk about maritime shipbuilding and defense industries. She wants to move the city beyond just eds and meds. Very ambitious, very ambitious. She wants to do something for youth employment, a career-connected learning program. She wants to put $14.7 million into that 5-year plan. She wants to talk about sports. She talks about there's going to be a WNBA sports team. She is calling a lot of this stuff One Philly Economic GPS app. That's what she wants. She wants to do an app, but she calls it GPS, One Philly Economic GPS. This is the city's plan to do this. The GPS stands for something. I have to go through these pages, but she's, there's a lot of plans here, right? And, oh yes, it's Philadelphia's economic GPS, growth, prosperity, and security. So that's what she likes to call it. So there's a lot here. There's so many big ideas. Some stuff better than others. $30 million for Vision Zero strategies to make the streets, safer. Yes, she's going to do potholes. She's going to address potholes. She's going to do this Gateways to Philadelphia initiative. She's going to put some trees, 85 trees and 96 bulbs. She wants to make it nice. She wants to clean up the streets, the filth that's on the highway. She wants to get into illegal dumping. She's going to have a Philly illegal dumping task force. Yes, she's going to address homelessness. She wants to do some stuff. She talks about her $2,500 nightly stays. She's going to do a Hope 220 homeless service center. She has a goal. She's already done 1,000 beds. She wants to do something around that. She wants $110 million over her 5-year plan to support the goal of ending street homelessness in Philadelphia. There is a lot here. It's a lot. It's a long, long, long list, okay? Now, the big thing here, though, is that there's going to be a lot of how are we going to pay for a lot of these major things, right? How are we going to fix a lot of these issues? Now, does this look like we're going to, I don't know, tax rich people? Because I think the working families had their own budget plan, and, maybe we should, tax the wealthiest around Philadelphia. Maybe they should pay a tax, or, what we're going to do about this abatement. Maybe that could be the way to do it. No. What we're going to get, basically, is she's proposing a rideshare tax of 20 cents per ride, with all of that revenue dedicated to Philadelphia School District. Now, I'm going to call this the Uber tax, even though, let me be very clear for the record, all rideshare. Okay, so Lyft, and I don't know if anybody else do it, but pretty much, if you thought you was cute with Lyft too. It will be Uber and Lyft. And I'm hearing, any of those rideshare delivery services. Uber Eats would also be impacted. So it will not just be just rides. This is in Philadelphia, period. So all of you folks that live up in the suburbs, if you're taking an Uber ride in Philadelphia, you'll be charged 20 cents per ride. Now, some of y'all know me. You know I Uber everywhere. Now, Mr. Johnson, my husband, we have a car. I don't have a driver's license. I don't drive. So when my husband don't feel like being a chauffeur for me and driving me around Philly, I gotta get Uber. And I typically ride Uber very often. So this is going to impact me. Now, some of y'all are saying 20 cents, but again, my 20 cents and someone else's, it adds up. Then you have, now this is going to be another one that is going to be a more loftier tax proposal, is a retail delivery tax on deliveries from large virtual retailers. So I call this the Amazon tax. So this is going to be your Uber Eats, your Caviar, all these groups. Anytime you do any of these retail delivery taxes, it is going to be an additional 25 cents per order. Okay? Now, she is saying that this is going to be charged to the retailer. Let me just say this. I am so tired of government. Specifically, Kenny did this with the soda tax, where they say we're going to charge it to the retailer. It will trickle down to the consumer. That is just basic math. Like, stop. Like, why do they feel like they got to say that? Like, we're going to pay that cost. We're going to pay that cost. Just like with soda tax, we're going to pay that cost. So say it, but it does not mean we're not impacted by it. We will be impacted by it. That's how tariffs work. When they'll say, "Oh, we're taxing, we're tariffing the country," that impacts consumers. The Trump administration tried it with tariffs. Remember that whole, we're no. Tariffs, when you tax foreign countries, where do we get our goods from? A lot of us get those goods from other countries. That impacts consumers. So when they say that we're taxing the retailer or the country, it trickles down to the who? The consumer. So us. So that's to be clear, okay? So I'm calling it the Amazon tax, but that impacts pretty much any delivery. Now, to be clear, this will exclude essential items such as food, baby products, medical devices. The tax is supposed to be supporting public transportation, but it's very complicated on what food entails because I've heard mixed things about what type of food. So don't automatically take that at surface level because, it's very subjective about what that will look like. But they're saying right now food and medical devices. That's what they're saying. But I'm like, what kind of food? Like, are you saying groceries or are you saying because I Uber Eats too, y'all. Sometimes I don't feel like cooking, So I'm like, am I good off of the Uber Eats? Like, is my Uber Eats protected or not? Like, I don't know. There hasn't been any specificity on that aspect. Now, I can imagine if they're saying food is like groceries as in the people that, get the, I guess, Amazon Fresh or things like that. Like, does that impact in that type of way? Like, if you're getting groceries delivered, or is there not going to be a fee on that? But it's complicated, though, because when you're talking about, rideshare services, those rideshare services have those types of distributions. So will that be impacted? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just think that I'm kind of still trying to figure out what that means. Like Instacart, is Instacart spared? I would imagine Instacart might be spared, but don't quote me on that. So there's a little bit of question marks about that. But nonetheless, this is going to impact everyday Philadelphians. And I think that we should all be considering that this is going to benefit public education, that this will generate about $9 million for the school district of Philadelphia. That's the praise there, that the tax on ride sharing services will do that. Now, these other taxes that are being talked about on some deliveries, 25 cent tax that is supposed to be helping with an investment in, I guess, SEPTA programs, I guess a investment in public transportation. So that's where that money is going to go. And some of these things are like kind of like being paired together. So 25 million is what they're shooting for SEPTA zero fare program. They're going to do an increase on hotel taxes. There's going to be a 2% increase. And this is going to generate 20 million to help pay for the city's homelessness plan. There is going to be, like I said, this pothole squad is going to be $7.1 million. There's going to be a sales tax to online purchases, which is what I mentioned before. They're requiring everyone selling to Philly residents to charge an additional 2% city sales tax. They think this is going to generate $1.5 million. And this is a huge budget. This budget is $6.97 billion, basically $7 billion, but it is $6.97 billion, $7 billion. Because I think all we're missing is we're only missing what? Well, it looks like we're only missing like what, $3 million. So I don't really know why or is it 30 million? Would it be 30 million? 30 million. Oh, I guess there is a difference there. So I don't want to, I mean, 30 million could make a big difference. So, okay, I'll take it. 6.97. Okay. Because I guess I wouldn't just, I mean, $30 million is nothing to sneeze on. So 30 million would have made it 7 billion. So I guess, 6.97. So that's 6,900,000,000, 70 million, and at 30. So I'll say 6.97 billion because 30 million is a big difference. I mean, that can, 30 million could do SEPTA's zero fare plan, and then a little bit off of that one Philly pothole squad. So I mean, each million counts. So yeah, big budget, big proposals, big things. My thoughts on this? I have several, and I'm um trying to gather myself on where we've been and where we're going and what's happening here. There are people who are outraged because they're saying that, look, they're bringing back BIRT, BIRT, for small business making under 100,000. And people are concerned that this is going to push a lot of folks out, even though the city lacks enforcement beyond not allowing you to get city contracts. So they're bringing back BIRT for those who have concerns. Uh, what is that to people? What does that mean? What is the BIRT tax? It is Philadelphia's business income and receipts tax, BIRT, and it applies for for-profit entities conducting business in the city. There are plans to, bring that back into the mix, and this is not going to. I mean, somebody's got to pay the price for these things. Now, folks are saying, look, just deal with the abatement. You'll get this money. You get this money. Just do that, right? Just do that. But we don't know how to act. Philadelphia does not know how to act. And I mean Philadelphia as in the city administration, the city of Philadelphia, not Philadelphians. But we just don't know. As a city, we just don't know how to act. And so here we are. So a lot of you all have been commenting, and I've seen some of your thoughts, and this is like a situation where we find ourselves back at square one, and that has a lot to do with the consistent narratives that we're told about the taxes that we're already paying. I have to explain to people that the soda tax went to Universal Pre-K and Parks and Rec. And folks were like, oh yeah, whatever happened to those Parks and Recs? I mean, there was some rebuild. Remember rebuild? Like, I was like, oh, God, how did that go down? How did that fare for us, right? Um, People are talking about PPA. People are saying, hey, they want to point out that the mayor was opposed to taxing wealthy individuals last year, but is okay with taxing working class and working poor who are using Uber and Amazon. Some people are saying that this tax won't dramatically change school funding because the amount raised is small relative to the district's total needs. People are having those questions. People are saying, you know, again, what about PPA? Right? Someone said Lori Lightfoot, who was the former mayor of Chicago, did something very similar, and then she got unelected. It's a lot. It's a lot of people. I mean, look, I don't know about Philly. I don't know about the whole unelected thing because I just don't feel like Philly has the. I don't know. Let me not underestimate this city. We are an underdog city, I guess, but we don't have it in us to. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't sense that. I sense that I would believe that the mayor will have a second term before I don't. History would support that. There's not been a Democratic mayor who has not served two terms in decades. Decades. Like Philadelphia mayors, they get eras. They serve multiple. I mean, it's just mostly Democrats that serve. And most of the times, most of these mayors get to serve two terms. And they don't really they get challengers, right? But none of the challengers ever rise to the occasion. The incumbency of a Democratic mayor is so strong that once you get elected, you can pretty much go, yep, they're going to be there for 8 years. I mean, you could really just go back. Like, I mean, listen, Wilson Good, I'm going to keep reminding you all this. Wilson Good dropped a bomb on a black community. Okay, the Move bombing 40 years ago. Okay, that was under his mayoralship. And you know what? He got reelected. He did that in his first term. So as many people are like, don't get too dramatic and go, somebody gonna run. No one's going. I don't know. You can never say. If this was New York City, I would believe it. Like New York City mayors, oh, they don't. It's up and down all around with them. Okay, look what happened to Eric Adams. Like if Mayor Parker was in New York City, I could see a situation where, I mean, you just, New York is different though. They're different. They're electing Republicans. They just all over the place in New York City. But they also do ranked choice voting, which I think if Philadelphia had ranked choice voting, a lot of these people who are elected would not be elected. I mean, that's another conversation for another day. But back to taxes. So there's a lot going on here. We got a soda tax. We have that. There's that plastic bag, paper bag, or whatever tax. We got something on cigarettes or something like that, I think I heard about. I mean, we got all types of taxes in Philadelphia. And all of these taxes are supposed to be going to support these types of things. Is it not enough revenue? Did people just go drive down to Delaware to get their sugary beverages? Like what happened? I can tell you what I did. What we did over here is that we have really good coupons. We're really big on coupons. We would only get stuff on sale. We never bought anything original price. I'm very big on sales. Like, I keep me some CVS discounts. So I get a discount every month. I've had the same CVS account for like 15 years. And so I get this $10 credit every month. And that's when I make my big old purchase of sweet. Because let me be very clear. It's not just related to soda. I don't really drink soda, but like I drink ginger ale sometimes. But like, it's any type of sugary beverage. Any like iced teas, the flavored iced teas, anything, any of that. Anything with sugar, pretty much like that gets taxed. So Arizona's get taxed, all that kind of stuff. So what I do is I make a bulk purchase, apply my $10 discount, and that's how I get away from those ridiculous taxes. But I have to be strategic. And I think people I mean, I don't know if other people are, but it is harder in areas that are like food deserts or areas where there's a lot of convenience stores. And that's all they have access to. It really do hurt, I feel like, lower income neighborhoods. Like, how are you telling them that their universal pre-K and their parks in their neighborhoods, the only way that we can fund them is by charging them beverages that we know are pretty much pushed on them in their communities? And if we want this to be successful, we're encouraging bad behavior to generate revenue. See, that's why I call this a regressive tax, because a regressive tax is encouraging, I think, bad behavior in order for this to work. So with rideshare, if if you want to raise the money right, you would encourage people would need to use rideshare. They must have done research and know how many people are actually using rideshare, right? And we know this because of look at the way in which a lot of parents are sending their kids who cannot ride the school bus past the age of 12. They have to use Uber because their parents are not able to drive them to school for various reasons. And so a lot of times parents are Ubering their kids to school or basically putting their kid on an Uber to take them to school as a means to, do so. There's a lot of other folks that have to use rideshare because they don't have a car or they have a disability or don't have a driver's license like myself. And also, one would argue that such rideshare is good for the environment, public transportation, right? Because if everybody gets a car, we're going to have congestion, we're going to have traffic, right? So in a city like Philadelphia, we know that rideshare is a major way of transportation for people who have given up on public transportation. And it makes sense because the way that SEPTA currently is operating and moving, it's not like it used to be. Everyone cannot be able to get on public transportation in that type of way for various reasons. So it's just a lot. There's a lot of concerns here because if people were to say, well, stop riding the rides, well, then this will be a flop tax. They won't be able to make the money. So they need people to do it in order to do it. I can afford to do it. Okay, 25 cents a ride, 20 cents a ride, whatever. I can do it. It's annoying, but I can do it. But the problem is just in general with all these taxes, they add up. These taxes add up. A hotel tax, we're increasing hotel. Like these things add up. And the reality is that Philadelphians, working class folks, we're the ones having to pay for this because let's be clear. All of these rich, really wealthy folks in Philadelphia, a lot of them that do business in this city, to some extent, do not live in this city. They don't. They live out in the suburbs. They can afford to live outside of Philadelphia. They got properties. They don't live here. But they're the main ones benefiting from these tax increases because it, again, divorces them from that responsibility or accountability. So once again, the poorest of the poorest and the working folks have to continue to pay to fund this shit. And it's stuff that I get, right? I get it. But the problem is, when is somebody else going to pay their fair share? What happened to pilots? We just decide not to do that, right? We're not going to charge PIN. Because I remember there was a talk about increasing pilots at one point. Guess that went out the window. So it's like everybody else has to continue to. And we're the second poorest major city in America. We're no longer the first. But this just seems backwards to me. This seems backwards. And every time there's a new tax, we're told that this is going to be the magic bullet. And so just listening to this proposal, it made me start to begin to think about the fact that this city does not have an economic plan. It doesn't. It does not have an economic plan. And that is concerning to me. We do not have an economic plan. And so before people start, let me break this down, okay? Because someone's like, well, isn't the budget the economic plan? No. So let's talk about, let's define, let's have education here. A budget is basically how one plans to spend money, okay? So a budget basically tells us what your priorities are, what you think is worth funding, what you think is not worth funding, and basically how you plan to spend money, right? It's easy to make a budget. It's not easy to make a good budget, But it's easy to make a budget because, budget just tells me what you're going to spend the money on. It's people out here that spend the money that don't even have a budget. But legally, the city has to have a budget. Whether the budget makes sense or the math is mathing is two different things, but they have to have a budget. An economic plan. Now that's something different. That is a comprehensive strategy that seeks to manage resources, direct production, and achieve specific economic goals, right? Like, how do we have growth? How do we have stability? How do we have equity, right? That is what you need to do in order to have an economic plan. But in order to do that, you have to have a strategy, okay? You just can't have goals, right? And so what I hear from this city is a city that has goals, okay? Safest, cleanest, greenest, with economic opportunity for all, right? Access for all, right? That's goals. But there's no comprehensive strategy that I hear. I don't hear how the city plans to manage resources. Because you're going to tell me to give money to these things, but I don't hear enough about maintenance and accountability. It's like everybody runs from accountability. It's like they're allergic to accountability in City Hall. Like City Hall, the word accountability, bless you. Like they're allergic to it. They sneeze. You say the word accountability, they sneeze. They're like allergic to it over there. But that is the vessel to how all this works. You don't have an economic plan if you don't have a means of accountability. And that's what's been lacking. And let me be very clear. This is before Cherelle Parker, but the Parker administration is what we're currently dealing with. And this is an administration that says, hold me accountable, not to what I say, but what I do. Well, I try to do that and we see where that goes. So that's bullshit. But nonetheless, there has to be a real conversation about accountability metrics, right? That's the managing resources part for me. How do we manage all this? That's one. The second part, again, is direct production. It's always weird when I hear these proposals and I'm wondering who's going to do it? How are you moving those contracts? That's what I mean by directing production. Maybe they should tap me in there real quick. They won't do it, but other mayors out here in New York City, they follow me. They listen to what I got to say. Zoran in New York City, he following. He know what's up. Other mayors, I guess, out here be hating, but at least the mayor in New York City is at least listening to what I'm seeing over here in Philadelphia. Hopefully the Park administration can take notes from the mayor in New York City, because there's some things that Zoran is doing in New York. She called out Pastor Carl Day and said that New York is trying to, poach him. He's in New York City twice a week, apparently doing some consulting, I imagine. Interesting. Why is it that Philadelphia folks like Pastor Carl Day, myself, and others, we're being, I don't want to say the word poaching for me, but we're being outsourced for our talents in other cities asking us about things? I'm going to tell y'all something. I'm not going to put no names out, but do you know that right now in the city of Philadelphia, they have not published a policy plan, a press plan, an actual plan for press? Even though I sent them some recommendations and things, they have not yet published one. Do you know that there are other cities in America that have reached out to me and I have spoken with to help advise them on how to create a strong media policy plan? I think Pastor Carl Day is probably in New York City telling them how to do some things around community involvement. This administration is too busy not engaging folks like that. Now, they look like they trying to talk to Carl now because they called him out at the event. But as far as I know, he don't have a contract with the city. I don't want a contract with the city. I just want to sit at the table to be heard, to be able to express real meaningful things. But this is a city, again, that does not know how to direct operations, build meaningful relationships, and listen to some legitimate critique. It's just the immaturity there is why the city is getting held back. Philly is always in its own way. I've been 15 years, I can say that shit. We as a city is in our own damn way. Backwards as hell. I won't even talk about me. It's so many people in this city that are smart, that are talented, that are wise, that are not being utilized or being undermined because this city's afraid to look in the mirror and get real with itself. Just keeping it 100. And then again, achieving specific economic goals. There is goals, but without the strategy, without a plan that actually embraces accountability, it just does not work. So this city does not have an economic plan. It does not. And the park administration does not have an economic plan. So what does this mean, right? What it means is that there's a lot of passion, right? A lot of passion about what to do with the taxpayer dollars, right? Oh, yes, we're going to do additional taxes on a lot of essential services that are arguably going towards more essential services that are more in dire need. But what's the plan of holding those institutions running the services accountable? Like, how are we going to really hold the school district accountable for this income and revenue? Now, I personally like the superintendent. He's an alpha man. I think he's a good man. But let's be real that there's been some problems and concerns about the budget. There is a serious deficit in the school district. We're talking millions. They're trying to close that gap. So I posed this question on social and I said, is it just me or does it feel like the city is investing a lot of money into things that lack the accountability infrastructure to ensure maximum benefit? Metaphorically, it's like the city of Philadelphia buys a MacBook Pro without Apple Care. Great intentions with no comprehensive maintenance. I mean, where's the lie? You know? This is what it looks like to have a budget without an economic plan. The city is currently operating on the concept of an economic plan, but barely. Okay, you just simply cannot. You simply figuring out how to pay for something isn't enough. And I feel like so much of these fiscal conversations are juvenile. Politicians, not just the mayor, but others, are proposing these flashy things without thinking beyond the cost. And that's been the pattern. Like, really, what is the actual feasible economic plan moving the city right now? It is a legitimate question. So what has the city been doing? Well, in the park administration, it's been chasing white whales, big white whales. And if anybody don't understand what a white whale is, I can get a little, I'm a writer, so I use terms and words that are what I know. So what a white whale? It's basically something that one can pursue with little chance of success. Okay, so like Moby Dick, basically, it's in reference to it's a Moby Dick reference, y'all. Like we know the book Moby Dick by Melville, Herbie Melville, it's a classic. Herman Melville wrote Moby Dick. It's a classic book when I was younger. But that's what we mean by the white whale. Because in the book, the white whale was trying to get caught. Moby Dick tried to get the white whale, all the things. So this white whale is basically, that's what it means in that type of term. You're trying to, pursue with little chance of success. So that is what it means. Basically, something that one can pursue with little chance of success. So the park administration, like many mayors before her, but in this regard, the park administration has been chasing these white whales to boost growth without any serious strategy to sustain it, right? So, for example, the 76ers arena deal, which I've talked about ad nauseum, right? That failed 76ers deal was the flawed magic bullet attempt to address Market East, which has now become a question mark. The home plan, okay, which I've jokingly called the just trust me bro attempt to incentivize city employees who don't make enough to get decent housing without such resources. It's a real thing. People say that the Cleaner Greener initiative is another big white whale. I'm a struggle with that. I'm not going to say people are wrong about it. I just don't. I think that the greener initiative, I think, so far has been probably the better thing she's done. And I've always said that. I feel like the Cleaner Greener initiative is probably the best thing she's been able to show some meaningful results. And there seems to be, is it perfect? No, none of this is perfect. But I will say the Cleaner Greener initiative, in my opinion, I think has shown much progress than some of the other things. And I will guess you could say safe is crime, right? I think, but that's a little, we are a safer city, relatively speaking. How we're making things safer is a question mark. We won't go back into what happened in Kensington and what happened to those people? Whatever happened to those people they picked up? Won't go there. I'm just saying some of the ways in which we're defining safety in the city is a little concerning. So I think safety gets a little abstract. Crime is going down, but I don't know. It's a little tricky. But I would say overall, the least controversial, I think, is the Cleaner Greener initiative. I think that to me seems to be moving in a good direction. We'll see with these new budget proposals, but that's the one thing I will say I think has shown stride. And I think it's some of the people that's on that team, Williams and the folks that are over there. I think that they're showing some stride there. However, economic opportunity and access for all, where? Make it make sense. That is the weakest area. I think that out of all of her 3 or 4, but I put clean and green together, but out of her big 3 of initiatives, that economic opportunity, this budget, these fiscal priorities, that's her weakest. That's her weakest. And, a famous Democratic strategist once says the economy's stupid. And I'm not calling her stupid. I'm just saying that was the quote that he said. It's the economy. And if you don't get serious about the economy and figuring out a plan, that will be the lasting legacy. To this day, I think that the biggest problem that Kenny had is the soda tax. And it's not just the soda tax itself, but the entire mindset that went into that, the economic strategy behind the soda tax, like the logic, the culture, it opens the door. You don't get these taxes without the soda tax. Somebody in the Park administration, I'm just hypothetically assuming, was like, do it. Because Kenny did it. So if they let Kenny do it, why can't we do it, right? Because that opened the door. And look, Mayor Cherelle Parker, when she was in city council, was a big champion of soda tax. I don't know how she's going to sell this to folks. I just think that there was a specific time, right? White liberals, progressives, the energy around Kenny in the beginning, it was a different energy. And you know why I also think Parker's having a harder time is that Kenny, when he ran his first term, he didn't really have any strong challengers. He was framed as the progressive in the race. And he didn't, city council wanted him. With Cherelle Parker, I think her coming into this seat wasn't necessarily met with popularity off the jump because there were other people in the race that others liked. I mean, if she would have been in Houston, or if she would have been in Texas, period, she would have had a runoff because she couldn't even get over 50% of the vote. She would have had to do a runoff. And then it would have been interesting to see if it would have been a runoff between her and Rebecca Reinhart, would she have won? Or if it was ranked choice voting, would she have came out on top? I say all this to say that she entered her into office not necessarily with the same level of popularity that Kenny did, because they ran against different candidates. Her race was more competitive than his, which is a feat for her because it was several options and she did win. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, if you want to compare policy proposals, in my opinion, this is something you do in your second term. Because you're about to be out of there. Lame duck mode. Do something. You don't really do this in your first term, especially the year before you have a primary. Does this foreshadow something? I don't know. Regardless, I think she'll win re-election, not because she necessarily is the best person. I think if she was in any other major American city, in Chicago or New York, I think a challenger would have already been setting up a pack and there would have been conversations. And I also think she might have not even proposed this if we was not in this type of political system that we are in Philadelphia. I think a lot of Democrats like Cherelle Parker and others who've been a part of the establishment for a long time, I think that they take advantage of this machine to push certain policies that are unpopular like this. I think in a city where people are already struggling, to add all these other additional taxes just feels like a lack of vision to me, a lack of imagination. They have an imagination for how to spend the money, but they don't have an imagination on how to raise the money. To tax people is, to me, the laziest thing to do to generate revenue. It's the laziest thing. That's why I'm saying there's no economic plan in this city, because it cannot always just be taxing people. Your justifications, sure. But even with the taxing, it's not even creative. like creative in the sense of like, okay, if you want to tax, why are you taxing working class people? Go tax wealthy people. That's creative. Go tax their asses. Go tax high-end developments. You know, commercial properties that are X amount of dollars. Oh, I don't know. Tax these groups for leaving Market East. Like, maybe there should be if you plan not to maybe you'll allow commercial, if you want to boost economic prosperity on Market East, you can literally be like, look, to incentivize, we'll give tax breaks to those people that put on the Market East to build the revenue. But anybody who puts on outside of Market East, then you're going to get, maybe something. I don't know shit. Do an overlay, since people love that to do that, right? But do something that creates a level of creativity and diversity and financial perspectives. I don't know. I just feel like the sky's the limit, and yet we're so on the ground with our economic proposals. So I'm curious to hear. I've talked to some city council members on background who have told me that they're going to raise hell. This budget, these hearings that's coming up, be ready for them. It's going to be a bumpy ride. If I was a betting man, I would say I don't think all of this is going to go down as is. Because if it do, you got to remember, city council got to vote for these budgets. We're going to be looking and paying close attention to city council members who are speaking up, raising issues, safeguarding things for the working people. And if they're not, I think they're going to be the ones who are going to be most vulnerable to their city council seats being up for grabs. I think Cherelle Parker is going to be safe regardless. I don't know. This city don't make enough noise for me. As somebody who was born in Chicago, grew up in Houston, Texas, now live in Philly, I just feel like this city don't get pissed off enough. We take it too much. We just take too much. We just let too much slide. I mean, we raised hell when it came to the arena, but I don't know. I don't know. I think what is the line for you? That's the question. What is your line? My line has already been exceeded, but I think other people keep moving their goalposts and lines, and I think that's why these things keep happening. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up or shut up. That's how I feel about this. Like, it's just not enough to consistently allow these things to happen, and then when they happen, complain about them. Go to these town halls. The mayor is going to start doing, like, I think, listening sessions and town halls and things. Go to these town halls. Engage, these elected officials. Let your city council people know how you feel as a constituent. Just saying. So that is all for this special edition. Next couple of days is going to be really productive for me. I like to use the word busy because I feel like when you're busy, you're not doing anything you like to do, so you feel overwhelmed. Productive is when you're doing a lot of things and it's good. So busy with a purpose is productivity. Busy without any passion is just busy. Because to be busy just means you're all over. You're just making a lot of moves, but you don't really have any passion. Busy with purpose means productive. So I'm going to be very productive this weekend. And I wish you all a very productive day. And as always, be well and be best. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.